Hey guys, I'm back. The reason I left it for 2 weeks is because I was waiting for a new camera, which I've now got, so hopefully the quality will be a little bit better. But I haven't been wasting the time. I've been reading a few books, and the first one is called The Art of Being Normal, so this is what I've decided to talk about today. Now, this book, I bought it on a whim. I was just looking through Amazon, seeing what was recommended, and this came up, and the title and the cover is what really drew me, and for some reason I found myself buying it. Now normally I think over for a while, but I decided to buy it. It arrived and I started reading it on the weekend and managed to read it within 2 hours because as soon as I picked it up I was hooked. Now the story is about a boy called David and a boy called Leo, and it starts with David's point of view, and David has grown up always wanting to be a girl. So it's a very interesting character to start off with, and then you alternate to Leo and about his home life, and it just tells you a bit of background about that. Now they both go to the same school and the chapters alternate, and thankfully to the author or editor or whoever decided it, it's in different fonts, so you can clearly tell. You know, with some books where they change perspective it gets a bit muddled, whereas because there's such clear font differences it's very easy to tell the differences between the two characters, which I personally really liked, so that was very helpful. And the story's just about them at school. Initially they don't know each other. Leo is in the year above David, and one day David is getting picked on because he's generally quite an outsider, and Leo stands up for him and they sort of form a weird friendship, and the book just talks about them going through their issues with the friendship, talking to each other, becoming friends, and really telling each other their secrets. They've been outsiders for a very long time, so it takes a lot for them to open up to each other, especially as David wants to be a girl and he finds it really hard to talk to people about it. His two best friends know, his family don't, and he's toying with the idea of telling his parents, but he's really scared they're not going to accept him, they're going to disown him. And it's really interesting to see that train of thought and how he comes to terms with being a girl is who he is, not a decision, not a choice, but part of him, and he needs to do it for himself no matter what they say, which I found really, really interesting to get into those shoes as someone who doesn't experience that. And I found it as a good insight into that, because some novels that introduce that topic, it can be very hard to put yourself in someone's shoes, but I found David a very relatable character right from the start, and Leo as well, to be fair, and it was really interesting. And the plot really plays on the idea that reading a character such as David, you initially like, I don't experience that and I may not understand, but then the plot twist makes you realise that actually you do. And I don't want to give it away, but the plot twist is done very well for the reader. It really helps you understand the story. For me personally it really did, so I don't want to give it away, but if you've read the book you'll definitely understand what I mean, I think. So I would say favourite character, I preferred Leo. I feel like they're quite opposite but very similar, and as much as I really liked David's character, I also really found Leo's character very intriguing. I suppose I'm someone that likes mystery, and his character was very mysterious at the start of the book, talking about past experiences and going to therapy and things like that, and sort of like the new kid in school, so I found that really interesting. And to me Leo was my favourite character just because I feel like there were more layers, whereas David was very out there because the book was sort of the only place he could be himself. He was very himself, so I don't know, I kind of like the mystery of Leo, and the plot twist really made me more intrigued as well. So that would say was definitely my favourite character, but David's such a strong character, especially as you go through the book. There's a lot of progression in his character and self-awareness, I would say. And yeah, I found the character development really good throughout the book. They weren't very still characters going through the plot, they were constantly changing, and yeah, definitely about self-discovery, I would say, so I found that really interesting. The plot itself, I really liked the plot of the book. I found it very interesting, and I suppose I should have seen it coming, but despite knowing what type of book it was, I didn't see the plot twist coming, which I really liked because I was genuinely surprised by it, and I found it more interesting that way. And like I said, I feel like it reflected the themes of the book, in that your true self can't be hidden, and it isn't surprising, and it shouldn't be surprising by someone's true self, if that makes sense. You'll understand what I mean when you read the book. But yeah, both the characters and the plot I really liked about the book. As soon as I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. I read it so quickly. And the author, Lisa Williamson, she was really nice. I tweeted her saying how much I enjoyed the book, and she replied back, so I was like, oh, a fan. But yeah, I would definitely say, if there's one thing that you should read, especially if you're interested in the idea of self-discovery, I don't want to say deep characters, but really interesting characters and thought-provoking. Like, I read this book, like I said, just saw the title, was like, oh, let me read that. But once I finished it, it's one of those books that sticks with you. For the next 2 days, I was sitting there and I was like, applying it to my own life, thinking about how I perceive people, things like that. It really gets you thinking, and it gets those wheels turning, which I really liked as someone who likes to read books and then reflect on them, reflect on their themes. Especially a lot of young adult books. I find that with some books in the young adult genre, you read it and you're like, oh, it's done. Whereas I really like books that are thought-provoking, and for me that really did that. So if there's one thing I would say, just buy the book. Not many people can really tell you how good it is without telling you the plot twist, which I don't want to do because I really liked that part of the book. But I would definitely say pick it up if you can.